My boyfriend's admirer seems to have been Reborn ever since she was rescued after falling into the water. She's been pitifully following behind my boyfriend at first. Luis couldn't stand her, but later, just because she cried and called him brother. In a cutesy tone, he skipped his final exam and kissed her gently beneath the wisteria blossoms. Seeing in her voice had cracked into a sob, and her teary eyes looked like she had suffered a huge, in-depth case. I tugged lightly on Luis's sleeve and shook my head at him, signaling not to go. Luis frowned and didn't move, but his hands clenched unconsciously, and his gaze drifted toward the girl outside. Luis, I just want to say one thing, okay? Please? Camila's sobs grew heavier. Her tear-filled eyes made her look heartbreakingly fragile. Finally, Luis stopped listening to me and walked out. Eleanor, I'll be back in a minute. He hurried to her, afraid she might grow impatient if he took too long. Chapter 2. His sun shone just right outside the window as the two of them stood talking. The girl looked up at him with a pitiful expression, though Luis kept a few steps between them. There was a trace of tenderness in his eyes. He couldn't hide. Only when the bell rang did Luis return to the classroom. When our eyes met, he suddenly looked away. During lunch, I casually asked, could you make things clear with Camila? If you don't like her, don't string her along. Luis suddenly reacted like I'd hit a nerve. He slammed his chopsticks down and glared at me with frustration. I did what you said. I told her not to come find me anymore. What more do you want? I froze for a moment, unsure how to respond. We'd been together for 2 years, and it was the first time Luis had ever snapped at me over a girl who was chasing after him. I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. When had it started? Chapter 3. At first, Luis wasn't really interested in Camila, the girl who chased after him back then. His eyes were only on me. He once said I was his true love. After all, during the darkest, most difficult time of his life, I was the one who stood by his side. His father had died in an accident. His mother was paralyzed. And even though I was just a little girl, I faced his difficult relatives and shielded him from all the gossip. I still remember how he would peel tangerines for me and look at me with his amber eyes full of sincerity under the sunlight. Eleanor, you're the love of my life. Eleanor, I only like you. But Camila refused to give up. She kept texting him, sending others to bring him milk and bread. Luis ignored every message and threw away the milk and bread. He looked at Camila with visible annoyance. How many times do I have to say it for you to understand? I don't like you, and I'm not interested. And did it start to change? Maybe when I noticed Luis calling Camila by her nickname with a tone that sounded unintentionally tender. Or when he stopped throwing away the breakfast she brought and awkwardly explained to me that it would be wasteful not to eat it. Or maybe when he no longer seemed annoyed when Camila approached him, he would complain, but his legs would already be walking toward her. He began telling me about Camila's silly antics, not realizing how his eyes softened when he talked about her. Or maybe even earlier, after Camila once nearly drowned. Upon waking, she had a complete personality change. From being shy and quiet, she became arrogant and condescending, always acting like she knew something the rest of us didn't. Except when she spoke to Luis. To him, she always smiled sweetly, speaking softly, calling him Luis with exaggerated admiration, as if she already knew that Luis would one day become a business tycoon from then on. She seemed to anticipate his every move, knowing all his preferences. Chapter 4. When I got Luis's call, I was doing practice problems. He said he had fallen off his bike and asked me to bring in medicine, but when I arrived at his house, what I saw was Camila kneeling under the warm glow of the lights, applying ointment to his injury. Luis's obsidian like eyes looked at her with a tenderness that could melt anyone. In that moment, I couldn't breathe. I wanted to call his name, but no sound came out. Camila was still speaking sweetly, flirting. Luis, don't you think I'm like an angel? I always appear just in time when you get hurt. Luis, don't you think we're fated? Otherwise, How can I always know when something happens to you? Be honest. Don't you think I understand you better than your girlfriend? Am I cuter too? Her voice was seductive, and I saw the boy who always claimed to love me gulp, his ears turning red. A second later, he saw me, his face turned awkward and angry. Eleanor, why didn't you say anything when you arrived? Noticing I was staring at Camilla, he instinctively shielded her behind his body. She just happened to run into me and had medicine on her. So she helped me apply it. You don't need yours anymore, just go home. Chapter 5. Camilla looked at me with teary eyes. Eleanor, I just happened to run into Luis and couldn't help but help him when I saw he was hurt. I'm sorry. I won't bother him again. She spoke in a soft, tearful tone, eyes reddened full of false remorse. Please, don't get mad at Luis because of me, okay? Luis's gaze softened with sympathy. He turned to me. Clearly annoyed, Camilla seized the moment and whimpered again. You guys aren't going to fight because of me, are you? I'd feel so guilty if that happened. Luis shook his head, wanting to wipe hurt ears but hesitated and held back. Don't worry. Eleanor is very sensible and obedient. She loves me a lot. He wouldn't be so unreasonable. He looked at me, frowning slightly. Eleanor, Camilla is just a kid. He is innocent. Don't take it so seriously. At that, Camilla shrank pitifully closer to Luis, watching them. A wave of helplessness washed over me when I heard Luis was hurt. I dropped everything and rushed over. Traffic was bad, so I ran the last stretch, nearly tripping, and now he stood there defending another girl, as if I were some unreasonable monster. Camilla turned to me and gave me a pitiful smile. Eleanor, I'm sorry I upset you. But when she passed by Luis and turned her back to him, her expression changed instantly. Gone was the tearful innocence. Her eyes gleamed with provocation and triumph. I gave her a calm smile, unfazed as a wealthy heiress. My pride wouldn't allow me to lose composure over something this pathetic. Camilla, seeing my calm, grew flustered, like punching cotton. A moment later, her smirk returned with a chilling undertone. Eleanor, you can't beat me. I'm not like you. I know much more than you ever will. She leaned in and whispered smugly in my ear. You know Luis cares most about being ranked first in his class, right? He needs that scholarship to survive. Want to see how far he'll go for me. Then, turning back around, she resumed her pitiful act with a sobbing voice. Luis, I want to apologize to Eleanor that she's ignoring me. I don't want you two to fight because of me. I don't want to be a burden. Luis walked over, comforting her in a low voice, but gave me a cold glance. You won't be a burden. You're just a sweet, emotional girl, Eleanor. Do you really need to be so harsh on her? What happened to the kind, understanding Eleanor I used to know? So, he knew the kindness and understanding I once gave him. He now used it to defend another girl. I stared at the handsome boy in front of me. His features hadn't changed, but somehow he looked like a stranger. He stood shoulder to shoulder with another girl, facing me. I wanted to speak, but the words stuck in my throat. The Luis I knew would have never treated me like this. He used to panic if I so much as teared up back then. Even a small bruise on me would send him into a frenzy, but now, I looked down at the cut on my knee and felt nothing but bitterness in my mouth. Luis froze, following my gaze to my knee. A flicker of panic flashed in his eyes. He opened his mouth to speak. I ignored him. I stood where the sunlight was brightest, smiled radiantly and beautifully, then turned to leave before the tears fell. Before my vulnerability spilled out. Eleanor didn't want anyone to see her. Luis once could. Not anymore. Chapter 6. At night. Rain poured down outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. I had a dream. In the dream, it was also a rainy day like this. That was the first time I met Luis back then. His family hadn't fallen into ruin, and he was visiting my home as a guest. I came down from the attic wearing a begonia-colored dress and met his distant yet beautiful gaze. The rain poured outside the window. Inside stood a quiet boy. Warm lights and fragrant flowers. First meetings are always lovely. Later, his father died in an accident. The family went bankrupt, and his mother was paralyzed in bed. Relatives and so-called friends swarmed in like vultures. So much for loyalty in this world. I watched Luis stand tall and proud during his father's funeral, enduring stares and pitying glances. He was such a proud young man back then. I ignored my father's objections and stayed by Luis's side. I helped him through the darkest days, arranged his father's funeral, fought his mother the best care, and even made his blood-sucking relatives back off for good. One late afternoon, under a golden sunset, white fell gently on his face. His eyes were red as he leaned his head against my shoulder. It was half a sigh, half a whisper. He said, "Eleanor, you're so good to me," he said. "Thank you for getting me through this," he said. Eleanor is the light in Luis's life. Chapter 7. After that day, Luis came to apologize. He admitted he was wrong and even showed me his phone. He had deleted Camilla's contact when Camilla showed up at our classroom door. He ignored her and even said some harsh words. He said, "Your happiness is what matters most. I don't want anyone to make you unhappy." He said he knew who had stayed by his side through the darkness. He said, "Luis can't live without Eleanor." He sounded so sure that for a second, I almost believed him. He pretended so well, cutting ties with Camilla as if overnight, and treated me better than ever, but I knew too well. No matter how good the act, there are always cracks. Luis spaced out more and more during class. He often stared out the window. They now had eggs and milk for breakfast, Camilla's favorite combo. I noticed it all, but I chose not to lie to myself. Even if the truth hurt, I'd rather have a painful clarity quietly, piece by piece. They removed him from my heart, not fast, but steady. Luis didn't realize this. He thought his sweet talk had fooled me, that I was moved by his promises. He smiled and said, I was still the same, so understanding. Always putting him first. In the sunset light, he ruffled my hair gently and half whispered, "Eleanor, stay with me forever, okay? No matter what happens, be by my side, okay? I can't live without you. Luis will never betray Eleanor." Then came the exam day. He got a phone call. I vaguely heard a girl's voice on the other end. Luis, please don't ignore me. Oh, Luis, come see me. I miss you so much." Luis's ears turned red from her voice. He looked at me in panic and blurted out a lie. "It's the hospital. Something happened to my mom." I looked at him undasked. "And what about the exam?" He hesitated, clearly struggling. "The exam is important. It matters a lot," he murmured. Yes, it was important. His scholarship depended on it. His future, even his next meal. He took a few steps toward the exam hall but suddenly turned around and ran the other way. "Eleanor, I'll go to the hospital. My mom is more important than the exam." "Sure, Luis. But was it really your mom?" Before he left, I grabbed his hand, smiling under the sunlight. Half relief, half rebirth. Said, "Goodbye, Luis." He froze. He looked at me confused. "What do you mean?" Chapter 8. I didn't say anything. I just looked at him, unshook my head. Luis still looked confused, but his phone kept ringing with the girl on the other end urging him. After only a few seconds of hesitation, he turned and ran out without looking back. "Eleanor, you're always so understanding. Be good and wait for me." I watched his silhouette disappear into the distance, my vision growing more and more blurred. I looked up. The sunlight outside the window was beautiful. A single hot tear slid down my cheek, clearing my sight. The orange glow of the sun filled my eyes. It felt like a farewell. Or maybe a rebirth. "Luis, Eleanor won't be waiting for you anymore. You once said you would never leave her. Then you left her again and again. All for another girl. This will be the last time." I wiped my tears and walked into the exam room. I used to hold back my scores to stay just below Luis's ranking. Because he wanted to be first in the grade. He was a proud boy whose family had suddenly fallen into hardship. I used to wonder how I could help him while preserving his dignity. Direct support would be inappropriate, so I made it look like an honorary scholarship that could ease his urgent needs while keeping his pride intact. I still remember the glow in his eyes when he got his first big scholarship. He said, "Eleanor, your boyfriend's pretty amazing, huh?" I smiled up at him. "Luis, you're incredible." That day he treated me to the most expensive ice cream. Seeing him happy made all those hidden sacrifices worth it. But from now on, please, I'm not holding back anymore. That top spot, it's mine now. I can't help but look forward to his face when he sees the results. Chapter 9. 3 days after the exam, the results came out. Luis came by just as I was looking at the newly posted ranking. "Eleanor, congratulations on being top of the class." He stood in the light, smiling, but it didn't reach his eyes. His fingers tapped restlessly on the desk. We'd known each other for years. I could tell this meant he was anxious in the past. I'd have asked what was wrong right away, worried about his feelings, but now I just smiled and nodded. When I didn't react to his cues, Luis grew visibly anxious. He looked at me with pitiful eyes. "Oh, Eleanor, I'm so useless. I guess I lost the scholarship, huh?" He crouched beside me, sounding utterly pitiful. He knew I always gave in to this. His puppy-eyed act used to melt me every time. But now, I just found it laughable. I kept a straight face and asked, "Yeah, you lost it, so what's your plan?" Thinking I was giving in, Luis moved closer and continued to whine. I couldn't help it. That day, my mom had an emergency. I couldn't think of anything else. I couldn't be that selfish to only think about myself, right? She's my mom. She's loved me all these years. He looked fragile and helpless as he murmured those words. Tears welled in his eyes as he added, "But now no exam, no first place, no scholarship that was my only source of money." He leaned toward me with embarrassment. "Eleanor, this scholarship was set up by Uncle Shung. Could you maybe talk to him for me? Ask him to make an exception?" There it was, the real reason Luis came. "If it was so important, why did you skip the exam?" I blinked at him. Feigning confusion. Guilt flashed across his face. "I told you. My mom was in the hospital. You want me to be heartless and selfish?" I stared at the familiar yet unfamiliar face in front of me. This boy who once promised never to lie to me, who had eyes like sunlight and honesty, he had long since decayed into someone I no longer recognized. Chapter 10. Right in front of him, I opened a photo. It had been sent anonymously an hour ago, a photo of a kiss in the picture, under the wisteria vine at sunset. The boy who once saw me as his salvation was leaning down, eyes closed, tenderly kissing another girl, the very one he once said he hated. The Camilla Luis' expression in the photo was devout, almost reverent, as if the girl in his arms was his whole world. The time stamp on the photo? The same day as our final exams, the same day Luis had told me his mother was hospitalized that day. All it took was a girl's coy, sugary voice over the phone to completely unravel him. After that call, nothing else seemed to matter to him. No exam, no scholarship, not even me. He had cast me aside, pushing through a crowd of people all just to run to another girl. And the reason he could give up the exam so easily? It wasn't that he didn't care about being first in the grade or about the scholarship. Quite the opposite. He cared deeply, but he believed he had me under control. He assumed that a few sweet words, a bit of whining, and I would cave. But I begged my dad on his behalf. This way, he could have both the scholarship and me. Let me explain. I can explain everything. That day, Camilla said she was in danger. It was life or death. I couldn't ignore her. And the kiss, she surprised me. I pushed her away after. My feelings for you have never changed, Eleanor. You've always been the most understanding person. You know me better than anyone. You must understand. I had no choice. I smiled and shook my head. Luis, I never knew you could be this shameless. Let us break up. The moment those words left my mouth, panic flashed through his eyes, but then he smiled knowingly, as if he understood everything. Eleanor, I get it, you rain mad at me. I admit, I was wrong this time, and I understand that you're upset, but threatening me with a breakup just because of something this small? That's immature. That really disappoints me. Think about it, okay? Luis truly believed I was just throwing a tantrum, like always. In his eyes, I'd never leave him. He thought I just wanted attention, that I'd always come back to him in the end. He assumed that a little emotional distance would make me afraid of losing him, and I'd come crawling back. Ridiculous. Let him stay in that delusion a few days longer. Sooner or later, Luis will realize the truth. The Eleanor he thought he had under his thumb, the girl he believed would forgive everything just because he crooked a finger, never existed. Yes, Eleanor loved fiercely and without holding back, but Eleanor is proud, and so is her love. Chapter 11. I ran into Camilla and Luis again on a rainy day. Right after Luis had given me the silent treatment, Camilla's eyes were red from crying, looking as pitiful as a little rabbit. Luis, is it because of me that you and Eleanor broke up? It's all my fault. I got scared when the car almost hit me. That's why I called you. I should have been more well-behaved and not caused you trouble, Luis. And sorry, do you want me to explain everything to Eleanor for you? I thought you two had such a good relationships. He wouldn't blame you over an ambiguous photo. If I were your girlfriend, I'd never make you feel so torn. Luis lowered his head, face unreadable. His voice was soft enough to melt honey. Camilla, this has nothing to do with you. Don't blame yourself. And I know Eleanor very well. She's just mad. She won't really break up with me over something like this once I ignore her for a while. She'll come running back. Camilla, in her frilly little dress, smiled extra sweetly. Luis, don't stress over this. You should smile more if you ever need me. I'll always be by your side. Luis paused, gazing at her, his voice full of emotion. Why do you always believe in me, Camilla? You're like a little sun. She looked up and teased playfully. Because I'm your own personal sunshine, Luis. I shine just for you. Luis's ears turned red instantly. Chapter 12. But, the next second, he saw me. The soft, glowing look on his face vanished. He went back to his cold, annoyed expression. What are you doing here? I glanced up at the rainy sky, lifted my warm coffee, and smiled calmly. This is my private break room. I should be the one asking why you're here. Camilla instantly put on a teary voice. Eleanor, I just brought Luis here to hide from the rain. Please don't misunderstand. Hiding from rain on the 7th floor? Camilla's little scheme was obvious. She had deliberately found out I came here at noon to rest, then picked the perfect moment to let me see the scene, hoping I'd blow up and cause a scene. I just looked at her quietly. The silence grew heavy, and she finally couldn't hold it in. Eleanor, I know you might be upset, but I have something to say. She walked toward me, acting like she was braving some monster while I just stood there watching coolly. Why would you believe an unclear photo over Luis? Luis was just helping me because he felt sorry for me. Her voice broke into sobs. I really don't want things between you and Luis to end like this because of me. I'll feel guilty forever if you ask me to. I'll never speak to Luis again as long as he's happy. I'll do anything. Then she stepped closer, and in Luis's blind spot, her expression twisted, and she pretended like I had slapped her. Oh, Eleanor, why did you hit me? I just wanted to help you to get back together. Why would you treat me like this? Luis immediately rushed over, angry, shielding Camilla as he glared at me. Eleanor, Camilla just wanted us to make up. Why did you hit her? This is between us. If you're mad, take it out on me, not her. You're only making me more disappointed. Camilla looked tearfully at Luis, then pitifully back at me. Luis, I'm okay. As long as you and Eleanor are okay. I'm okay. The look in Louise's eyes grew even more tender. Eleanor, apologize to Camilla. If you don't, I really won't forgive you this time. Chapter 13. I looked up at the man in front of me. Louise stood like a hero protecting a damsel. Just like a male lead shielding his beloved in a romance novel, and I was the villainous Camilla. You said I slapped you, right? My voice grew sweeter, my smile brighter. Well, sorry, I'm not going to apologize. Then smack. I actually slapped Camilla across the face and she claimed I hit her. Wouldn't it be a waste not to? Both Camilla and Louise were stunned. Louise was the first to recover, looking at me with visible disgust. Eleanor, how could you be so cruel? I just shrugged and smiled, but I wasn't finished yet. Louise, didn't you say to take it out on you instead? Well then, don't mind if I do. Smack. Louise got a slap, too. He froze. Camilla's eyes widened in disbelief. Of course she was shocked. All her little tricks were based on the assumption that I'd never fall out with Louise in public, that I'd endure everything in silence, afraid to lose him. She thought her brilliant schemes had me wrapped around her finger. What a pity she miscalculated. Yes, from that final exam call to the hallway encounter, Camilla planned it all, especially the anonymous email. She thought it was flawless, but I've studied programming since I was young. It only took a bit of digging through IP addresses to know it was her. She had arranged for someone to secretly photograph that staged moment with Louise, then send it to me anonymously, all to break us up. To hurt me. She thought she was in control, but I knew all along. I just played along, waiting for the perfect moment. Chapter 14. Eleanor, you can treat me however you want, but why treat Louise like this? I'm afraid you're really getting mad at you. Camilla held back her fury, still acting pitiful in front of Louise. Louise, finally recovering from the slap, looked at me with mixed emotions and a flicker of panic. Eleanor, you've never treated me like this before. Do you really want to disappoint me this much? Yes, in the past, even when we fought, I never laid a finger on him. If he got a scratch, I'd drop everything to tend to him. I'd never hit him. Listen carefully, Louise. I told you, it's over. I won't run you anymore. Then I looked at Camilla, full of resentment, and smiled even brighter. Since you love picking up the things I throw away, then take him. All yours. I didn't wait for their reactions. I just turned and walked away. Louise's voice echoed behind me. Eleanor, you'll regret this. When that day comes, don't come back crying to me. His voice was angry, tinged with a sob, but it was no longer my concern. Chapter 15. Soon, Louise and Camilla were openly going around together. Rumors started to spread. Someone posted that picture on the school's confession, while the one Camilla had anonymously sent me. They really look like a couple from a romance drama. Some suspicious comments followed. Heard Louise gave up the exam for Camilla. That's the only reason that longtime runner-up Eleanor got first place. Always thought Eleanor and Louise were close. Didn't realize he never liked her. What a desperate simp, honestly. That first place Eleanor got was just a lucky break. Wait till Louise tries. He'll crush her. And guess what? All those comments had the same IP address. Camilla's. All the accounts. I never made my relationship with Louise public to avoid drama. But thanks to her, people started talking behind my back. Eleanor is just a cringy simp, so embarrassing. She got lucky once. Thinks she's hot stuff. Louise is the real genius. I calmly kept studying. When I finished my last practice question, I opened the confession wall and posted a mini program I coded myself. If y'all are so sure I just got lucky, let's bet. I'll score 735 on the next exam. Miss even 1 point. And I lose. If I lose, I'll give every one of you a fat red packet. If I win, everyone who trashed me better apologize in person. Come on. Keyboard warriors. Got the guts? People jumped in, mocking me among them. I saw two familiar usernames, Louise and Camilla. Eleanor, that's ridiculous. No one has ever scored more than 721. She gets one lucky win and thinks she's a genius. Please, Louise will crush her. We'll see you Real going to lose. Chapter 16. After school. On my way home. Louise blocked my path, pushing a bike. Eleanor, you keep saying it's over. Now you're pulling cheap tricks just to get my attention. Following his gaze, I saw a torn seat and a flat tire on his bicycle. His mocking voice. And if you want to get back together, just say it. No need to be so childish and stubborn. I stood still, smiling, just about to snap back when a lazy voice chuckled behind me. That's when Eric appeared in the golden sunset. A boy in black jumped over the wall, grinning wildly with sharp, handsome features and striking red lips. He turned to Louise with the same mocking tone. Whatever dirty trick you're accusing her of. It wasn't her. I just teased. And your face. I blinked in surprise at the boy swaggering over. Though I didn't know Eric personally, he was instantly recognizable. He was the legendary school tyrant from Class 7 next door. There were always rumors about him. Dangerously handsome. Fights ruthlessly. And so arrogant. It was like his eyes were glued to the sky. What surprised me more was... When did Louis spit him off? Louise looked nervous and furious, as Eric came to stand protectively in front of me. Eric was half a head taller than him. Then suddenly, bam, 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 3 clenches straight to Louise. Watch your damn mouth get lost. I don't have the patience today. Eric's voice was sharp, full of menace, like he'd held a grudge against Louise for ages. Louise, clearly intimidated by Eric's wild reputation, gritted his teeth and stormed off once his figure vanished beneath the rose arch. The dark-haired boy turned around. Gone was the hostility. His whole vibe softened. Maybe it was my imagination, but I thought his eyes were slightly red. That single teardrop mole beneath his amber eyes made him look breathtaking. He looked at me like he'd known me for a long time, like he had watched me across years and lifetimes. Unable to step forward, just a few steps away. Under the twilight sky, those amber eyes seemed to say, Eleanor, long time no see. That night, I had a dream in the dream. Camilla hadn't done anything wrong. Louise and I were still together. I kept supporting his career with all my money and energy. He eventually found success. We got married. Everything looked perfect on the surface, until 3 years into our marriage, when his company expanded rapidly and he started coming home late. He barely stayed at the house anymore. One day, burning with fever, I went to his office and saw something that chilled me to the bone. A sweet, delicate girl was sitting on Louise's lap, kissing the corner of his mouth. I've got cramps. It's my period. Her voice was soft and whiny. Louise reached out and drubbed her belly. Eyes full of concern. Me stood frozen, hurt like ice, watching the man I had trusted give all his tenderness to someone else while leaving his feverish wife to suffer alone at home. I slapped him, shouted for a divorce, and drove away, overwhelmed by fever and heartbreak. I crashed the car as the car flew through the air. It felt like my soul floated above, watching someone rush to the scene and carry my dying body to the hospital. That man's back looked familiar in the last moment before everything faded. I saw his face not clearly, except for one thing, amber eyes and under his eye, the teardrop mole. Chapter 17. When Eric transferred to our school, the buzz was immediate. There were rumors that he had transferred because of a girl. As the gossip spread, it turned into, he transferred for Camilla. The reason? Someone had seen Eric blocking Louise after school and punching him. The motive? Jealousy. And if it was about jealousy, then it must have been over Camilla after all. Camilla was Louise's girlfriend. Someone even tried to verify it directly with Camilla. Then, asked in the hallway, she blushed, didn't say yes or no, making the rumors seem even more believable. Soon, Camilla became the school's it girl, a classic novel heroine. On one hand dating the top student from a once wealthy family, on the other, pursued by a cold, rebellious bad boy. Everyone who'd seen Eric at our school said he was insanely good-looking, like on another level good-looking. And he was rumored to be the heir of a rich family. People said Camilla was practically living on cheat mode, honestly. Maybe everyone just liked her sweet and innocent vibe, unlike a certain simp who was probably dying of jealousy seeing the guys fight over Camilla. And of course the first person to post about this online. No surprise. It came from a familiar IP, who else but Camilla herself. Until Eric's blunt reply shut everything down. Her? Camilla? I don't know who that is. I only know Eleanor, the top student at No. 1 High. I transferred here to study with her. Reading the post, I looked over to the corner of the classroom at Eric, who had just recently transferred. He met my gaze in the sunlight. He gave me a lazy smile. Those amber eyes, that teardrop mole, my chest tightened. It felt eerily like a dream I once had. Chapter 18. After Eric's post, the online conversation took a sharp turn, especially against Camilla. Her earlier ambiguous reaction now looked like a silent admission, and with Eric publicly calling her out, the whole thing was, well, awkward. Some people even started shipping me on Derek. Doesn't anyone else think Derek is really protective of Eleanor? Maybe he hit Louise to stand up for her. Yeah, totally. Eleanor, please stop simpering for Louise. Eric's better than him in everything except grades. Eric doesn't really talk to anyone, always has that cold vibe, except when he's with Eleanor. He just quietly listens to her explain questions. With this kind of atmosphere, I had a feeling things wouldn't stay calm, so when Eric asked me to help him with a math problem, I wasn't surprised to see Louise walk over. Eleanor? Do you really enjoy hanging around with that delinquent? He asked. That punk embarrassed Camilla and doesn't even care about school. His grades are trash. Always picking fights. Are you really going to think this low? I looked up at him. Same handsome face. But Louise now looked completely worn out when we were together. He had generous scholarships and I helped support him. He didn't have to worry about anything. He even maintained his high lifestyle, but after a breakup, without my help and with the missed scholarship thanks to visiting Camilla, he was struggling. I'd heard he still had some savings after all. I'd bought him quite a few expensive things when we dated. I never asked for them back, and he sold them for a decent amount. But Camilla liked to spend beyond her means. She, deep out and dark, pitiful to borrow money from Louise. And Louise, unable to cut back on his own spending habits, had nearly burned through it all. You don't have the right to tell me what to do. Who I choose to be friends with is none of your business. I wasn't interested in dating anyone right now. I just wanted to focus on my studies. And who I chose as friends was my own choice. Before he left, I still softened a little and said, Louise, no matter what happens, school should always come first. Don't give up on your studies. Not because I still had feelings for him, but out of basic human decency. No student should give up on education when you're stuck in a swamp. That ladder upward is everything, and you have to climb it with courage, not manipulation, or shortcuts. Earn your way up fair and square. Lately, Louise had been busy with dating and part-time jobs. He often slept in class, ignoring teachers' warnings, but studying is like rowing against the current. If you don't move forward, you're going backward. Even geniuses fall behind if they stop trying. Louise paused, clearly confused. He turned his back to me, voice slightly clenched. Don't look down on me. Even if I stop studying, I'll still be No. 1. I shook my head and went back to explaining the math problem. I'd said what I needed to say, the rest had nothing to do with me. Chapter 19. During this time, Louise and Derek were like complete opposites. While Louise became increasingly distracted, Eric suddenly turned into the very picture of a dedicated student. practically studying as if his life depended on it at first. Everyone thought the legendary troublemaker from Class 7 only transferred to our school as a formality. No one expected him to actually take studying seriously. He did every day. Eric showed up right on time. Whatever I wrote, he wrote. Whatever problem I solved, he solved too. And the most important part? He was smart. He picked things up with just a hint. Most of the time, I buried myself in my books, but occasionally, I glance up and get lost in Eric's amber eyes for a brief moment. One late afternoon, his sky burned with a spectacular sunset. After finishing a long question, I looked up and found Eric watching me. He grinned, all lazy charm and mischief, yet for some reason his eyes were red. Then he asked me softly, "Eleanor, do you know why I'm working so hard?" I shook my head. He murmured, "To get a little closer to someone." Then he asked again, "Eleanor, do you believe in past lives?" I wanted to say no, but the moment our eyes met, the word got stuck in my throat. He looked toward the setting sun and added, "Actually, I've been trying to get closer to that person since the last life." I didn't reply, but suddenly I thought of the tree with those amber eyes and my own heartbreak in another life. Maybe that dream had been real all along. Soon, the 3-day final exam period began. In the middle of it, I ran into Camilla once. She was clinging to Luis's arm, chin high, wearing an expression like she'd already won. "Luis, let's show them what we're made of this time. At that second place, nobody see your real strength." Clearly, she was riding high now that Luis and I had completely fallen out. She didn't need to pretend to be the poor, pitiful girl in front of me. I simply raised an eyebrow, looked at them, and smiled calmly. "Well, and I wish you both the best of luck." After the finals, the most talked about thing besides the results was the bet I had posted before. Who would take first place, Luis or Eleanor? And more importantly, would Eleanor really score a 735? Before the grades were even released, a lot of people were already laughing at me. Can't wait for the results. I'm dying to see Eleanor eat her words. Camilla said Luis is super confident this time. If his girlfriend says so, it must be true. I heard Eleanor look kind of pale after the exam. Eric was seen comforting her too. Then someone with the ID Eleanor's biggest fan commented, "That's because she lost the little candy she gives me when I solve a question." I was saddened she was cheering me up. "Okay." I looked over and saw Eric, the intimidating black-clad guy with a sharp glare, furiously typing at his keyboard. Anyone passing by would think he was hacking something important. In reality, he was replying to every single comment made by people trash-talking me. Damn it, I'm fuming. He opened his phone and sent a voice message to his group chat. "Yo, twice! Someone's buying your boss's boss. Whoever fights back the best gets 1,000 yen. Seconds later, the chat exploded with messages. Then came the chaos wherever they went. Not even a dog could pass without getting barked at. Eric even replied one by one to the ones he liked most. "Second bro, DM me for your reward." "You nailed it." "Third bro, firepower kinda weak. I'll give you 200 yen as a pity prize." Watching his too cool for school face doing something so childish made me unexpectedly amused. "You really don't need to bother with them once the results come out. Everything will be clear." Brick didn't even look up as he replied, his tone sounding slightly wrong, like a little puppy wagging its tail. "No can do. No one gets to bully you or..." Chapter 20. Thanks to Eric's relentless counterattack, most of the gossip finally quieted down. Still, everyone stared at the great portal like hawks, hoping Luis could reclaim first place and give them something to gloat about. As a result, when the exam results were released, the number of students checking online broke all previous records. I calmly opened the ranking sheet. First place, Eleanor. Total score 735. Not a single point off. Second place, Luis. His score had dropped significantly. 687. Luis used to be someone who consistently scored over 700. Now, he had dropped by nearly 20 points. That's just how high school academics work. The higher you go, the harder it is to gain points. A 10-point difference at this level isn't just numbers, it's a real gap in skill apparently. Luis really had slacked off recently. He only managed that score by relying on his previous foundation. As for Camilla, her scores had plummeted from middle of the pack to nearly dead last. Damn, Derek, he actually made it into the top 20, even though I knew he was smart. Such dramatic progress shocked me. He used to be near the bottom in class 7. And now this. I couldn't help thinking of what he said about a previous life. Could there really have been one? Soon, my 735 and top-rank score went viral across campus. Some praised me, some doubted me, others rushed to defend Luis. Honestly, Luis works part-time after class and barely has time or energy to study to still score. This much is impressive if he focused. He could easily surpass Eleanor. Let's wait for the college entrance exam. I still believe in Luis, the eternal study god of class 1. I didn't care about public opinion, but everyone who bet against me, it was time for them to own up. At the scholarship award ceremony for first place, I finished my speech and looked out at the crowd, eyes bright, smiling. To all the classmates who once bad-mouthed me behind my back, I hope you'll honor your bets and apologize one by one. There were whispers. Not gonna lie, Eleanor really is gorgeous. But she's so naive. Who'd be dumb enough to admit to that? Just then, the screen lit up. My program's ID reveal kicked in. Every malicious comment and the name of its author appeared. Neatly matched, the selected comments were so toxic. They gave people chills when I created the app. I had included real name verification from the beginning. And the bet. It was explicitly a real name wager. This was just letting the losers pay their dues. If you had the courage to hurl insults behind a screen, I believe you also have the courage to own up otherwise. I'll be saving screenshots of every defamatory post and taking legal action. Then, trust me, you don't want that on your permanent record. I scan the audience. Sometimes I truly couldn't understand it. How such young faces, people I spent every day with, could say such heartless things. If you won't learn to be decent people, then I'll teach you. Eleanor isn't someone who waits around to be bullied. Soon enough, many of them, either out of guilt or pressure, came forward to apologize. Among them, of course, were Luis and Camilla, but what shocked people most was Camilla. After all, wasn't she the sweet, gentle, understanding, innocent flower? The one who supposedly blushed just hearing curse words. And now it turned out some of the nastiest comments were hers. Her entire carefully built image shattered into pieces. Chapter 21. When Camilla came to apologize to me at the stairwell, her expression was far from pleasant. She stiffly muttered, "Sorry." But in the very next second, it was as if she suddenly remembered something. She looked at me with a hint of mockery in her eyes. "Eleanor, do you think you're so impressive now that you've surpassed Luis and become top of the class? But you'll definitely regret it in the future, because I know things you don't. Since you and Luis have already fallen out, I might as well tell you. The Luis of the future will be a powerful figure. His company will go public and expand, and he'll become someone far beyond your reach." At that moment, a vague suspicion in my heart slowly started to solidify. I had long suspected that something was off about Camilla. Ever since she fell into the water, she'd seemed oddly familiar with Luis, able to predict events in advance and use that knowledge to get close to him. Now it all made sense. She knew Luis would become rich and powerful in the future. That's why she deliberately approached him. I put on a show of being shocked, regretful, and heartbroken. What do you mean?" "Luis, that can't be. No way. I don't believe it." Seeing my look of regret, Camilla laughed even harder. "Don't believe me? Fine. I'll tell you. Even if you spread it around, people will just think you're crazy. I've lived this life once before. In the future, Luis is the top scorer in the college entrance exam. A business tycoon. And now he's mine. There was so much information buried in that one sentence. Maybe Camilla was telling the truth and it all made sense. And maybe, just maybe, the dreams I've been having were real too. If Camilla hadn't been reborn, the Luis and Matrus would have really become the top scorer and the CEO of a listed company. What she doesn't know is the reason Luis achieved all of that was because of me. I was the one who invested in him. I gave him resources, connections, support, but now everything has changed. This time around, if Luis wants to become some business mogul, he'll have to cling to heaven first let. See how amusing it'll be when Camilla's carefully calculated dream turns into nothing. Chapter 22. One test after another. One exam after another. My ranking remained no. Luis's grades dropped lower and lower. He was swamped with problems. If it wasn't something about Camilla, it was his mother's condition. In reality, his tuition and his mother's hospital bills were already covered by kind donors, but he still worked part-time to keep up with the spending habits of both himself and Camilla. As the college entrance exam approached, he became more unhinged every time the scores came out. You could hear him muttering to himself. It's fine. Camilla said I'll be the top scorer. I'll be the top scorer as he wouldn't lie to me. This is just temporary. And the title of second place in the grade? Eric had taken it the day Eric ranked second. Was a rainy day. The boy showed up in a black rain jacket to pick me up. There were a lot of people around, crowded and restless. I hadn't brought an umbrella and was about to run into the rain just as I was about to dash off. He ran up to me, holding an umbrella once we stepped into the curtain of rain. Just the two of us. He smiled, his voice soft, but his eyes rimmed with greed. I saw the ranking list. My name is right next to yours. I looked at the list. Eleanor and Derek silently. I handed him a candy. You're a reward for ranking second. The usually free spending, reckless school tyrant took the candy carefully and popped it into his mouth. So sweet. Then he folded the wrapper and tucked it into his pocket. It seemed he had never thrown away a single candy wrapper I'd given him. There was even one time when the wrapper was blown away by the wind, and the next day Eric showed up to class with dark circles under his eyes. Only later did I find out he had spent the entire night looking for that one wrapper. Chapter 23. The college entrance exam finally arrived. It was a rainy day, just like many others. Back then, I loved using the little reed umbrella Luis gave me on days like this. Now that umbrella is long gone, and strangely, I don't feel a thing, truly no feeling at all that same day after the exam. Luis called me. I didn't answer later. I heard that his mother passed away that day. Camilla happened to be at the hospital before she died. No one knows exactly what Camilla did that day. Chapter 24. When the college entrance exam scores were released, I was in the yard with Eric, pulling out the bellflowers and planting roses in their place as expected. I scored 726. Ranking first in the entire province, Eric scored 703. Also among the top, Luis. Just a bit over 500, far from being a top scorer. Camilla, as always, scored in the 350s. I heard that when Luis saw his score, she shouted impossible, slapped him on the spot, called him a useless loser, and stormed off later. Camilla was arrested apparently. She had something to do with Luis's mother's death. Chapter 25. At the thank you banquet for our teachers, I invited many classmates and faculty. Luis showed up uninvited. He cornered me backstage, holding a huge bouquet of bellflowers. He looked exhausted, filled with pain. Eleanor, I'm sorry. I've regretted everything for a long time. The moment I saw you smiling at Eric, teaching him, being with him, I was so jealous, but I was also angry. You once told me you'd never leave me. Then you broke up with me. I couldn't take it, so I went to Camilla to spite you. She kept saying I was destined for greatness and shouldn't live in your shadow. I was a fool to believe her. She's a venomous woman. She pulled out my mom's oxygen because she thought the medical bills were a waste. How laughable is that? I should have known you were the only one who never gave up on me. Do you remember what you once said? That if we ever fought, as long as I bought you bellflowers, you'd know I was sorry and we'd make up? I spent everything I had on these flowers, Eleanor. Can we please go back to how we were? I looked at the teary-eyed boy in front of me and laughed out loud. Open your eyes and look at my garden. I don't even like bellflowers anymore. Please stop coming to me. My future is bright and brilliant, but it has nothing to do with you. Chapter 26. That night, after the graduation celebration, Eric took me to the Green Hills and lit a massive fireworks show just for me. We toasted, drank, and kept drinking until I was completely drunk. Someone whispered softly in my ear. He lifted me onto his back and said, Eleanor, would you believe me if I told you I've loved you for 2 lifetimes? Suddenly, I remembered the dream I never finished. Those amber eyes, that teardrop-shaped mole. And finally I saw the whole face. He wore a black coat. His features were striking, elegant yet cold, carrying the same intensity Louise once had. But when he looked at me, his gaze held a love that seemed to span time itself. That face, familiar yet strange. I couldn't help but ask him, what's your name? I'm Eric, the Eric who had loved me his whole life. The one I had never known by name. The Eric who was lucky enough to come back at 17 and meet me all over again. Extra Chapter 1. Eric first met Eleanor when he was 15. That year, he was the pampered young master of a wealthy family with a life going smoothly until one day his father brought home his mistress and her son. His already ill mother was so enraged she vomited blood and passed away at his mother's memorial. Some people were discussing business, others flattering the mistress, and still more gossiping casually. Eric ran out to the back garden, fists clenched, eyes red with grief. And suddenly, he heard a little girl's voice. Did you cry? Eric turned his head away, not wanting to be seen. The girl slipped a piece of candy into his palm. Have a sweetie. I'll make you feel a little better. He looked sideways and saw her eyes glowing in the sunlight. He had never seen someone so beautiful. Eric didn't reply, just asked her name. Eleanor. She said. He ate the candy, but kept the wrapper and quietly memorized that name. Later, back in the hall, he heard someone sobbing. He turned and saw it was the same little girl. An adult came over to pick her up. Thinking about mommy again? The girl nodded and shook her head. I just think that Auntie is so pitiful. She died and everyone's laughing. Look, even that uncle is smiling. Before she could finish, her father covered her mouth. Derek froze, his heart softened. He looked at the photo on the altar suddenly. Tears welled in his eyes. Yes, his mother had died and everyone was smiling. But at least someone cried for her. Only one person. He whispered the name softly. Eleanor. Extra Chapter 2. When he was 17, Eric caught a glimpse of her outside the school gate of No. 7 High School. He saw that familiar face, bright and radiant. His heart skipped a beat. She walked under the sunlight, wearing a peacock blue dress, her smile warm and gentle. But she wasn't alone. Eric paused. He didn't realize how disappointed he felt. Later, he couldn't help asking around about her excellent grades, someone she liked. He tried to ignore the second part and focused on the first. The rebellious boy who wouldn't study no matter how much his father scolded or bribed him suddenly started hitting the books. Every time he didn't want to study, he thought. Eleanor likes smart people. I want to be someone she could like. If only I could see her again. He'd heard that when students make progress, they get rewarded with candy. If she could give me a candy, just one, like when we were kids. In the days Eleanor didn't know about, there was a wild and untamed boy desperately trying to study just for her. Extra Chapter 3. At 27, Eric had become the head of the family business. Over the years, he'd grown unreadable, hard to approach, never showing emotion. He had always been alone. Never once had he fallen in love, At least not in anyone else's eyes to outsiders. He was cold, mysterious, powerful beyond belief. But only he knew how deeply he had loved and how completely he had lost. Late at night, he'd often take out the candy wrapper she once gave him, gently tracing its folds again and again. He had even secretly watched her wedding. Like a thief, he thought. Greedy for just one more look at her, he was so powerful, yet so careful. He couldn't bring himself to ruin her happiness. Eric was selfish. Except when it came to Eleanor, all he wanted was for her to be happy. He even secretly helped Louise for her sake. That's why his company had taken off so smoothly, but he never expected that the man who had the best girl in the world in his arms would fail to cherish her by the time he arrived. Eleanor was already lying there, barely breathing. A girl who once bloomed like a flower now lay pale and still in a pool of blood. How tragic that the one he loved most died in his arms. Extra Chapter 4. So, he hated Louise to his core. Eric destroyed his company. He set it all up, left Louise bankrupt and humiliated. Staring into the night, he thought, only when Louise suffers for a lifetime will it be enough to repay Eleanor later. In the southern hills, he met a mysterious old man. The man said, if you're meant to meet her again, fate will arrange it, but only if you do good deeds. So he started donating. He poured all his money into charity, into helping others. She thought, maybe I've gone mad, but then again, he had already lost his mind the moment that girl died in his arms. Extra Chapter 5. One early morning, he truly woke up at 17. And so on. That morning, two timelines converged to people were reborn. One came back for himself. The other came back for someone else. This time, thank God, Eric was on time. This time, he told her his name. Eleanor. Back when you didn't even know my name, I had already loved you for a lifetime in this life. Can I love you openly? Honestly? Then, without regret? Eleanor. My name is Eric. Eleanor, it's been a long time.